and with public record. All right. Hello, everybody. Glad to see you guys. Thank you very much for coming. We're here on the DD Clackamas County DD Council, and last meeting we had, which has been a while. I hope you guys have had a chance to read the agenda and the minutes. And quorum, do we have quorum, Amy?
Yes, we do.
All right. So the first part of the business, I think, would be, if I remember right, would be approving of last meeting's minutes. Anyone have any questions on that, or any changes that they would make as it was presented before a couple of weeks ago to council members? Because there's no questions or whatnot, it looks like it has been approved as presented in ways of the past meetings notes that we've had. Sorry for not remember the words right now. As for agenda, I actually have a concern on an agenda that was maybe misinterpreted. So we may have to go through a first, second, and discussion in a way of approval agenda. If it does not have a first motion on what my concerns are, we can still approve as presented. But I do want to point out, as an advocate, I maybe have misinterpreted it a little bit. And that was to do on section 5 and 5A in a way that I was hoping to get the council's view in ways of how on the public webpage, how you guys want to be presented as on the public webpage, not just to new recruits. I can change it to new recruits, but for example, some council pages have video, some council pages have budget notes on it. Some people have invitations, to join the council, and other concerns that I can personally make it to the page of new recruits, but I was hoping to get your guys' view as a council on when you guys go to the council's webpage, if there could be any more conversations on how you guys want to be presented as on that page. So when people become either new members or look at our page, we can have some consistencies. Would anybody be interested in that type of conversation outside of just new recruits, or would you guys just want to keep it up to new recruits? I would need a motion, and I would need a discussion a little bit, and then we can vote for that change in the agenda. All right, sounds like there's no motion on changing the agenda as is. So the next part of the approval process on the agenda that we have, does anyone want to make any changes or not of the current agenda that was presented as of a couple of weeks ago?
Hey, John, I don't actually know if you need to vote to make any changes on the agenda. You should be able to just change it. It was just a misunderstanding on my part.
All right. Then I go on different other rules in other places. I apologize.
Do we want to start with introductory?
That if we can add a B section on that, I would appreciate that as an advocate.
Do we want to introduce guests?
All right. Yeah. Now, since the agenda has been approved, I guess, right? We don't need approval on agenda, you're telling me? No?
I'm okay with introducing guests first. So do you need a motion for that?
No, I don't.
Move that
Yeah, I hear you, Sasha.
Guests. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Sasha, I interrupted. Cutting
okay.
in and out.
I can make a motion that we introduce guests first. Do I have a second?
I would second that.
Okay.
Anybody object?
Don't hear any objection.
Okay. Well, do we want to introduce guests?
Absolutely.
Sure. So I will introduce one person, if that's all right with the group. Just want to introduce Ken Hansen. Ken is a new supervisor within the Developmental Disabilities Program for our Adult Abuse Investigations Unit. So Ken, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and just a little bit about yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. It's good to be here. My name is Ken Hansen. Let's see, this is my first day with Clackamas County, and I'm really happy to be here. Prior to this, I was working for the state of Oregon in adult protective services. I've been working in the field of human services for about 20 years now, so most, if not all, of my adult life at this point. So excited to be here in this, starting this chapter, and look forward to getting a sense of what these meetings are all about. I think this is pretty cool.
Thanks for coming, Ken. Hopefully you'll be part of the discussion if it's guest related or public related. Can't wait to see what your views will be later on, and I'm sure the council would love to meet and talk to you. Sasha, the last meeting notes were on the Zoom edition of the link with notes. I don't know if that would help. There's also on a public page, if you go to the meetings and then go into the agenda, that helps on Clackamas County side. If you're looking for the agenda, one reason why I want to talk about the public page in ways that could help us guide us in information and guiding us. And is there any way else we could support that? Okay, good. I just want to make sure that you're respected and what you needs are on the agenda. Okay. Looks like I'm 5 minutes early, guys.
Brooke's
I
got
don't know
her
what to
hand,
do.
Brooke's got her hand up.
All right, Brooke, what's up?
Well, I wanted to see if I could introduce Amanda, who also is joining us tonight. Amanda is interested in potentially being a member of the DD Council or applying for, and wanted to come tonight to see kind of what a council meeting looks like. Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Amanda. I have been in and out of the foster home system since I was very young. I currently live in the adult foster home system. I am a self-advocate. I like to speak up for individuals as well as myself who may have lost their voice, to give their voice back to them. I've done pageantry. I've done a lot of community work. I do work with the Racial Justice Council Health Equity Committee. So I'm very excited to be here and see if this is a right direction for me.
Thank you very much for your time and effort, Amanda. I hope to hear more, and I hope this can interest you in a way that can help the department in Clackamas County and those who are serving on this council as a council member, maybe later.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we haven't met for a while. Thank you for muting. We haven't met a while. I was hoping to at least get on the way of the agenda, get some updates from Stacy and Kim and see if the council has any questions on that.
Sure. All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Stacy Mullins, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of the program managers. I don't think I was at the last council meeting. So, but I see that we're talking a little bit about audit updates and maybe some legislative updates. So in terms of our audit, we just received our corrective action plan from our audit last Thursday. So we are just now starting to share that information with staff and determine what kind of remediation activities we need to complete and engage in. Most of that comes down to completing a few tasks specific at the request of ODDS, and then doing some staff training and retraining on different topics. So we have that list of topics we'll be working on doing some training for staff around, and those activities all have to be completed by April 22nd. So we have a couple months to do that. A lot of the topics were around kind of pandemic impacted really around appropriately documenting verbal approval of things, making sure we had, case notes that corresponded with serious incidents, and just making sure we were completing our contacts on time, things like that. It looked a lot similar to our previous audit, just with a lot of new service coordinators and a lot of new staff, just reminders around what the expectations are in the field. And a lot of it is paperwork related. So that's the update on, like, the brief update on the audit. We're just now starting and engaging on how we put the training together for staff. In terms of a legislative update, so we've been tracking, we've been quite involved in Senate Bill 2448, and that was the bill around, asking the Department of Administrative Services to assess our position descriptions that fund our services. And we'd worked on that for quite some time. And then last week, there's a bit of a change in that process. My understanding right now is that this week they'll be meeting to talk about whether or not that language around this should really either go in our IGA contract or a memo of understanding versus they don't really think it needs to go through the legislative process. So the bill will likely die as long as we can agree on the right language. Kim, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so it's exactly what Stacy said, is that it is the Department of Administrative Services at the state has come out and basically said we won't oppose it, but we are definitely not in favor of it. And it is that they didn't want it codified in statute. They felt that that was like taking a sledgehammer to something that requires, just a regular hammer on a nail. So they did ask for a memorandum of understanding or some other way to show that the state is committed to doing it, but just not in a statutory thing. So they have agreed that since Rep. Nose is the one that's been backing this and brought it forward, so he's been our sponsor, that we requested that he would request a meeting to pull together our lobbying, DAS and Rep. Nose to ask that before we actually say no to, that before we were willing to pull the bill, that they would agree and get us something in writing that shows that they're committed to doing this. So that's where we're at. Is this Friday is the meeting, I believe, and we're hopefully gonna hear something from DAS that they can put something together fairly quickly, so that we can know whether or not we are gonna pull the bill or if we're gonna disagree and continue to move forward. And then the other piece is there's several bills out there, but what the next one is that there's an ask from our association about testifying, and it actually is March 2nd, and it's testifying to support fully funding or the funding of the CDDP budget. So our funding model, so fully funding or funding our funding model. And so if there's anyone that has some interest in testifying, it is obviously very short turnaround. It is March 2nd. We do have a testimony toolkit, something that you can use for a template, and we would connect you with our lobbyists to support that as well. So if anyone is interested on the council, I can send that out and just reach out to us and let us know.
Kim, do you have the POP number or or the LC or all other numbers that might be, what committee that might be under for the council members to know the date and time to testify?
For the testifying, I believe that this is for, well, it's the legislature, so,
I mean, you have many committees.
health, housing and human services, so the health, housing and human services, the human services committee.
And that's a joint committee?
I believe so.
Do you know anyone else in the state that's going to be testifying on this bill on March 2nd?
I know that Donalisa Sadler. She's from our lobbying AOC MHP.
All right, so I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to stick up my hand
Mhm.
as the advocate.
Okay.
So my question, if, of course, council members, please, if you have any questions, raise up your hands to try to point it out if you can in front of Clackamas County so we can gain a better perspective as a holistic group rather than just individual aspects. But my question, Kim, is that Donna Lisa on HB 2448 has put a support testimony on that. How is it different than what the CDP programs have testified versus the amendment changes that may have been considered by Representative Notes or the chair of that committee?
So 2448 is different from what we're asking about this budget testimony, because this is specific to the budget. 2448 was specific to requesting that DAS review position descriptions to make sure that they are in alignment with the work that we're actually doing. So they assess, the state has position descriptions, just like every entity has a job description, has a position description, and they fund those in a certain way. And they say, okay, counties in our contract, we're funding these positions, and this is what they are at the state. So this is what we're gonna pay for. And so
I guess
that is different than fully funding our budget model.
Okay, I guess the thing that concerns me on the advocacy side, as a member of Clackamas County, Kim, is that these model changes have not been made for 20 years. And so if we keep it the way of in the 1990s and the early 2000s, then things will not be changed in the history of those who are dealing with those with disabilities and non-disabilities. I understand there's a deeper conversation in what you're saying with your lobbyists and all, Kim. And Sasha, I see your hand, so I would love to hear your say. But I just want to make sure that we do not repeat history again because we're waiting so long for classification changes of those models. And it will also even go on my updates of a yearly review with Stacy in ways of history and history repeating itself in the future of this meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the funding model and the position descriptions are different. So and that we are fully committed to, if the state is unwilling to create an MOU in advance and put it in writing, that they're willing to do some sort of review on positions, that we will move forward with the bill.
As long as the council knows that Donna Lisa did make testimony for support of HB 2448, but then I understand that Clackamas County has its own voice and its own council and voice to hear. Thank you, Sasha.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I have a lot of questions. I don't know who Donna Lisa is.
Sure.
So who's that?
Donna Lisa Sadler is the developmental disabilities representative for the Oregon Association of Community Mental Health Programs. And the DD, she's the DD portion of that association, which Clackamas County is a part of. And they support us in moving forward with working with the state, and our association represents us at the state. So represents the CDDP, Clackamas County CDDP.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, so they're your lobbyists. So the other bill that you were talking about that was for funding and that you were inviting testimony is a different bill. What's that number?
It isn't the bill, it's our budget. It is the state budget. So it's advocating for funding and not reducing our CDDP budget. So it's the case management budget. And I say case management, it's more than just that. It's
And
all
is
the
there like a
services that the
bill for
county-
that, or it's
Mhm.
just ways and
No,
means?
it's just the budget. And so, yeah, the ways and means and Amy will want to put the link in the minutes for where they can go to get a copy of or view the budget, the governor's budget. And it's testifying on the governor's budget, essentially.
And so March 2nd, is that the Ways and Means Committee? Like the Joint Ways and Means Committee, or the Human Services Committee, or the House or the Senate side?
Right. It's just, she's just said legislature, and I don't know, does the other email say which specific committee it is?
And then,
Yeah, it's the Joint Subcommittee on Human Services.
so that would be the Ways and
And you
Means.
can do testimony on the 2nd or submit written
Written.
testimony on the 3rd, by the 3rd.
Mhm.
And we can send that toolkit out to anybody who's interested in providing testimony in either format.
And then I think this was the previous topic, but you were talking about an audit. And so where can we read that audit? Like what sort of findings were there?
The
that
audit
we could-
findings.
Yeah.
I was trying to find them and I'm not sure the answer to that question right now, so I will look
Okay.
back with that.
Yeah.
Because I thought that I thought you could go back and see our 2020. I'm not seeing them online, or I'm not knowing where to look. So I will loop back.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to see these ones until I don't think we have fully through the process.
Right, we could provide our cap to, it's just so you know that it's the corrective action plan, if we've submitted and got approved, essentially our corrective action plan is the
Mhm.
steps we have yet to take. And then once we've finally taken those steps, then we get a closure letter that says we've met it, but we can provide the cap.
Will we get a update even by email as a council member? Or do we have to wait till after the March meeting and ask about the audit and get that paper packet now?
We
I mean,
can
later.
send it in the minutes. We can send the cap in the minutes.
Okay, it might, a packet behavior function in that page would be great too, in a way that the public can also see that. All right, I want to also remind the
I
council,
understand what you're saying, John.
if they can send it in the minutes, that's fine for today.
Yeah.
I'll explain it later.
Okay.
All right, Lisa,
I was just curious what the memorandum of understanding actually gets you, if that is what happens instead of the actual bill moving forward.
Yeah, if we sign a memorandum of understanding, it is a commitment on the DAS side for what actions that they will take to review these job descriptions, and then what our role would be. So it would get us essentially the same thing, and that's where they're saying they would really rather not put it in statute. They would just rather us have a memorandum of understanding to do this at this time and not codify it in statute. And I think because it's time limited, that's also their preference.
anyone have any questions on legislative stuff? In a way that March meeting will have more legislative stuff in my hopes, in ways of helping out understanding. Colleen, anyone else? Sasha?
Yeah, so I've been involved pretty heavily in the Senate Bill 91 and Senate Bill 646 discussion, and just wondering if there's any sort of updates on that from the CDDP side.
Yeah, I was hoping, Sasha, that we have a meeting in March to talk about specific position bills. I do have another agenda items that I need to get through, but if any update on SB 91 and SB 646, S 646 and other SBs related, that the Clackamas County can give us an update so we can prepare ourselves for March's meeting.
Not at this time. And Sasha, I would be open, Shasta, sorry, would be open to, I'll look those up because I'm not exactly sure. We've been following so many different ones and getting updates that I'm not exactly sure which ones those are.
Yeah, that's our paid parent caregivers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
You know,
to
not familiar with where they're at the moment.
and to remind our council workers, for March's meeting, these type of information is important to know what direction you guys are taking your conversation also for March's meeting. Good question. All right. So one thing I wanted to get with this council for today's meeting, next month, we'll obviously go through legislative ideals and things. I hope that my co-chair will be there in ways of putting the agenda together. I wanted to get you guys a year in review. We've been in meetings about 4 or 5 times. Clackamas County has promised us stuff that may or may not have been followed up. Or we had a conversation about, say, veterans and TBI. You know, this is stuff on my personal side that we've talked about that I would like to try to catch up and follow up. I have maybe 5 or 6, 7 things on my list, but your guys' voice is much more important in ways of what did you guys hear over the last meeting minutes, the last year's meeting minutes that you guys would like to follow up in ways that Clackamas County may or may not need to hear or try to continue on with its communication and the flow of communications as a council. You guys may or may not have had the time to review all the meeting minutes, but I just want to make sure you guys are listened to and heard by Clackamas County, and then I'll raise my hand in a couple of seconds if no one has anything. Okay. Myself. All right, so April's meeting, there was a mention about hiring interviews and how many council members, and where Sasha was the one that brought up the questions about hiring interviews and how the council was going to be involved with that type of process. My question is, where is that approach over this last year in ways of council members being in the hiring process of the department? And what did we eventually concluded on that meeting? And I think there was a Stacy said she would contact us in a week.
Well, yes. I think what we needed to do was put together, I think, a list of descriptions, and then people were going to say what they might be interested in. And we have been in a constant state of hiring. And yeah, I certainly know I did not close the loop on that. So we could, I mean, if that's still what the council wants to do, we could work on putting together different job, like lists of jobs, who might be interested in participating in what. It is, I think I individually, or some folks have individually reached out to try to get some interest in some interviews, and some of our interviews, it's been hard to recruit a panel, so, and get people who have times, especially when we have large applicant pools. So maybe what we would also need to know is not only maybe what positions people might be interested in setting on an interview panel for, but what kind of time commitment if you do agree to, because some of them go on for days, multiple days for one round of interviews, and some of them, and a lot of them, take them the entire day, versus then if you narrow the applicant pool down for second rounds, it might be a more manageable time frame for folks. And so there's a lot more involved than I had originally anticipated. So,
okay.
But yeah, something we could definitely still put together.
Okay. Is there any follow-up from the council members that would hopefully meet that need, or would like any comment in ways to help Clackamas County and what your desires may be? Okay. Sasha?
I'm not remembering the specifics of this conversation, but is this about hiring like case managers or like hiring admin?
Everything. I mean, yeah, everything. There's from administrative support, case managers, eligibility specialists, owner assessors, supervisors, abuse investigators, licensing, like the list
Yeah.
can go on and on and on. And we've been in a constant hiring cycle.
Sure.
We-
Yeah.
So
A
yeah.
lot of
It's,
turnover everywhere.
so if you could see like what the positions were, what you might be interested in, and then maybe if you did want to do it, what kind of time commitment maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe throwing out a list or of positions that people might be interested in is one thing, but I certainly can't commit to that kind of thing. But I would be interested in a hiring panel for, high level admin or something like that. That
Okay.
makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
Yeah. And that has been noted in April's notes also. So I just want to double confirm making people's voices known and heard in this portion of the career. Beth, mommy, is that Mimi or is that another word I'm not remembering in ways that it will take me another couple more readings, and please forgive me.
No, it's okay. My son gave me that name. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I just want to say, I know we mentioned it last time about hiring. I know it's always a question of the shortage of case workers with the number of the houses we have. It's always they have a big load of like 60 houses. And I can imagine how hard it is to like pick up the phone and be the support that we want them to be. And I think I would suggest like the support for the providers, like with a support person, maybe to hire like a position, not only caseworker, but to the support of the providers to support them with everything they need. If like any rules coming up, or because some of the providers, the new providers, we don't know much about the rules and regulations, and we want someone from the county to support us, like because we need that gap. So that's my suggestion.
Absolutely. I'm going to call I was trying to lower down my hand. I muted myself. I will call myself on this also. Stacy, another thing on this that would really help me definitely when HB 2448 may or may not have its own categories and its update, is that categorization of hiring and what you're thinking of, what Satchel was explaining, the abuse person, certain other categories. I would really appreciate a category list on what you're looking for those things in ways that, even though I do have my advocacy, ideas on, 20 years ago and certain standards, it will give us at least a idea of what you're looking for department wise for today, and, in high administration ideals versus, the lower positions. I would really appreciate that list to be completed at the least, so we can help as council members as much as possible, even with our own individual advocacy edges. Thank you.
I'll work on it and you can absolutely give me feedback on whether or not it meets your needs.
I understand.
yeah.
I got two other points. One goes to Mimi in a way of mentioning about the consistency of, I may misspeak on one's behalf, but the consistency of service coordinators and providers. How are we doing on that? And that was in October's meeting and talking about that. How are we doing with that? If Mimi's here, I'm sorry. I would love for you to clarify that. And if it's not a topic that needed to be talked about, I apologize for talking on your behalf, but I do think it's important that communication, that type of communication barriers and customer service that Fairboard is looking for advocates, parents, providers, and other aspects are important. Any further conversation you would like to have, if Mimi's on a call, on how that, and if there's any update, Stacy or Kim.
I don't know if there is, I don't know, maybe if
Alright.
you want to come online and add to it, or if there's anything additional you wanted to make sure. I mean, I know that we talked about, shortage of case managers. And we recognize that that's problematic, not only for the individuals we serve, but providers too. Getting to know new people on the regular is a challenge for that. And we recognize that, and we do the very best to try to keep the people we have. But cases also continue to grow, caseloads continue to grow, so we have to add new people. So we are doing our best to hire and retain. And so we're really working hard on that.
All right, I just want to make sure Mimi's voice was heard on the October meeting on service coordinators and provider communications, and also with the advocate side or with anything. So I pointed out two different questions from two different meetings. When you guys were in this meeting space, do you guys remember or would like to talk about a question before I give my advocacy part of my questions of the last year and how we met with each other? That Clackamas, you would like to ask Clackamas County? Okay. All right, Sasha.
Sorry, is the next thing that we're working on the mission statement?
Yeah, so that was another thing I was going to add. On my part, the ARPA funds, I would still suggest on August's meeting, I would still suggest Clackamas County consider different parts of the ARPA funds rather than just self-advocacy, including the equity portion or other line items of the ARPA funds for those who are self-advocates. And we will continue that conversation. One thing that I was trying to mean for this conversation as a year review is we've mentioned about a mission statement for over 3 meetings or so. And so I kind of wanted to get that work at least finished or at least suggested on. I have a basic one that I sent Clackamas County on March 14th of 2022. I'm willing to put it out on the chat for public record for you guys to consider, but how would you guys like to move forward with the mission statement? And is it really needed, Amy?
I would like to move forward with a mission statement, but I think better in writing than I do in talking. So I feel like we need a draft and we need some sort of like written material going back and forth between the board before we can like vote on something.
I agree. And I think a mission statement is good for new recruits to read as well, for people to see sort of what the council is about. And I just think that's important to have out there.
Mhm. So John, did you say that you had a draft or? You're muted.
Thank you. First time. I said, yes, I do have a draft, Sasha, but this is a brainstorming draft in a way of public records in a way that we need to think as a council rather than just one's mind's idea. Clackamas County does not have anything on a mission statement for DD council before I push enter, right?
We did not create something for the council because we did not feel that was appropriate. So the previous council, I don't have any record of one for our previous councils. So
let me put some dots on this email in a way of continuing or not. This is from March 14th. I suggested this before. And it says to the public out there who do not have read, the Clackamas County DD Council strives to outreach and provide support, community choices that is person-centered, diverse, empowerment, and support with individuals or groups of individuals and families of those with disabilities in mind.
I mean, I think that sounds great. My feeling is that the council would be at least a little bit of accountability check to the DD services program in the county. So we could be a conduit for, like that audit seems like a really big thing that we should be able to read and go through and be like, okay, so where, where's the taxpayer money going? What do you guys have to say about certain complaints that there are in the community?
All right.
Something like that, I feel like is a pretty big part of the point of having a citizen advisory board.
Okay, so I would usually try to see in place this where what you talk about, Sasha, in what I would think if you were not a journalist. But where would you like that accountability language so we can first motion it, and then we will have to have a discussion and then approve of it if you guys want to approve this type of draft that I put in. So for example, if I was going to speak on your behalf, I'll put strive to outreach and make accountable. I don't know. I'm not an English person in written form, Sasha. So where would you would like to put that thing so we can put a motion to discuss it and approve of it if you guys would like to approve this as a draft, a working draft? Or would you want to start from scratch and then just do it on your own?
I feel like, maybe we can kind of have a round robin right now and kind of talk, everybody on the council should have an opportunity to say what is the most important for them and why they're on this council and why they're giving up their, Monday night to be here.
All right.
And then from that, I think we could probably, draft.
So what I hear is you like to add on accountability.
Mhm.
Anyone else have an opinion on what they would like to add on the mission statement ideals?
I think you've covered pretty much everything. I agree with Shasta about accountability.
And I would second that.
And I might reword it just a touch, but I do believe that you're covering things really well.
And how would you like to reword it?
I'd have to write it out, to be honest with you, John. I'm also not a, I'm a visual
I have
person,
what I'm having a hard time is I've been waiting for 4 or 5 months, and I hope we can maybe make this a working draft. We can change it in the next meeting in ways I do believe what Sasha is saying about us helping Clackamas County become accountable. So I would like to add that language into the working draft that we have and make it finalized by not March's meeting, but the meeting after March, because March is for legislative stuff. So how would you guys like to move forward on that? Would you like to count the community workers, give you this working draft later and we can approve it in May or whatever that meeting is after March? Or how would you guys like to move forward for this? And then of course, add Sasha's accountability request.
Well, I feel that we're close because we had, because we've discussed it in a prior meeting and because we have your draft, John, as well. I don't know. For me, I would rather just spend the first like 2-3 minutes of the next meeting approving it because it has been quite a long time.
Yeah. Amy, I'm going to need help on Robert's Rule of Orders in the way that Sasha did make a good concern of how to change it, but we would like to make this until, Cam, please help. Oh, sorry.
I wasn't sure about the Robert's Rules of Orders, but I was just gonna make a suggestion is that we can take in the minutes, capture what John shared, and then if there's any reworking or some suggestions on just the format of it, writing it and how, if someone has that wants to share back, we are allowed to do things back and forth via email as part of the council to get a final draft that could be ready for the next meeting to be approved. So if we want to take what John has provided, incorporating what Shasta was saying about accountability and get a couple versions, if Sarah, you wanted to put something together, Shasta and John, and then kind of just work on that. We can make sure everyone on the council gets a version, gets a copy, and then we can be ready to prepare for the next meeting and have it ready to go, because
We should have that a week before the meetings, before we send it out to the public. Amy will be the point person of that.
yeah, the drafts would go through Amy. Yeah, you're
Yes,
welcome. Amy.
Okay. And I want to point out to these minutes, please put out, this is just a working draft and not something that I'm demanding or whatnot, because this is a council decision and not just my own. All right. Next topic point. All right. I had a whole statement on my next topic point. Advocacy groups. I wanted to work on something else. I wish my co-chair was there with me in the planning meeting a little bit, but I said to Clackamas County that I would support them knowing where the discussions are going with ODDS and other things. I'm gonna let Brooke go up first to explain the topic point, and I've already told her that I understand, and hopefully she'll say the same words she told me, and I can support it all the way. But let's continue our conversation and make that point for the council and this meeting space.
So just for clarification, are
We're
we
talking
talking
about
about,
advocacy group.
we're talking about an advocacy group? Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
I told you I was gonna have you go first because I would have done it a little bit different.
Okay. So John and I spoke at one point about the fact that we do not have an advocacy group, a self-advocacy group for individuals who are currently in service. And we serve hundreds of adults in foster care, in their family homes, in their own homes. So we have like a large group of people who are in our services who we don't have a way basically to hear from in any sort of kind of concerted way. So when he and I were speaking, that it really made sense to me, that question of why don't we have an advocacy group that has a voice and who can lend support to one another, and also bring issues to us that we may not know about in our services. So as you know, there are some ARPA grants available and coming available through ODDS, and one of them has to do with self-advocacy. So the thought came that perhaps we would look at applying for a grant to kind of put some resources into helping to facilitate and create a self-advocacy group for people, individuals, adults in services who are interested in getting together for support and or discussions and or have a voice for and with each other, but also to us, the CDDP that is providing the case management services for them. So I'll stop there, John, unless you have
This is where I'll back you up. So the conversation came to you guys when I was looking up for North Clackamas Park and Recs something. There was a dance for 15-year-olds to 70-year-olds, and I went up to the county and I asked them that why were they considered in youth services in this call to action of 15 to 70-year-olds going to this dance routine, and why do the advocates do not have a voice in ways of being treated like an adult as an adult, for example. And so that's why I would have rather gone with North Clackamas Park, because it's summertime and, and adaptive sports like Sarah was explaining and all that type of stuff. But Brooke did make a good point saying that the advocacy arm does need to be heard. And what was your thoughts on that type of position where they may or may not have had a voice at the county level? How can we maybe make more of a conversation of this type of topic? All right, sounds like you got an interesting issue or not an interest to the council.
Absolutely interesting.
Okay,
Totally support the idea.
all right. Colleen, do I see a yes on that for a second of an issue for further conversation with leadership and advocacy that all are welcome towards? Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's something that we can take offline if needed. In ways, Brooke, it sounds like that we can. I do have a couple of questions on my own end. Unless someone has other ends like Lisa, Sasha, and Colleen already made that. And then, yeah, I'm sorry, can't pronounce the other name. My bad. But my question is, all right, there's two questions actually. Advocates are already at a one to sit natural support disadvantage. How will they be taken care of on their own voices when there's already disadvantages at group homes and others controlling their lives? If we had an advocacy group.
Am I fielding that question?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to answer.
absolutely for these groups, but I do worry that there is a power dynamic that when a legislator hears an advocacy voice, when a group home administrator hears an advocacy voice, they are already disadvantaged by other people's voices, even out of the gate when we make a group like this. So how can Clackamas County protect those advocates in ways of understanding and viewpoints? Because a lot of entity-based policy points, though they may look the same, they are very different in builder movement, siege, and other aspects of different conferences that I've been in part of. And so I just want to make sure, even though there is a legislative or a different type of voice in a way that there's the one to sit disadvantage, right? When a person with disability is born, in a way of their voice is being heard. I would like to know how we can protect them later on in conversations of this type of group when we take this offline.
If I understand you correctly, John, it's a question that I have for myself. I've worked in this field for 23 years, and I work in the field. I work within the system, right? So
Yeah.
a question for me when we're talking about trying to support a group of people to become an advocate group is how to do that without taking over, without having an agenda, without without being in charge. So I don't have the answers yet of how we're going to approach this. I'm going to have to do my own research, and I'm going to have to talk to people who I believe have been instrumental in other settings in putting, in helping something like this form without being too, I want to be supportive, and I want to, but I don't, and I want to help people to get to the table, but I don't want to lead everything. I don't want to take over. I don't want to have, I don't want to have the county's agenda involved in this.
Yes.
So I will say I don't really have the answer yet, but I recognize that that's a dynamic that always plays out, and one that we would want to avoid.
I hope we get more information as a council and, and ideas of how we're going to build this even off stream if possible. But I just, I know that someone with disabilities who even is voting age, they sometimes are at a disadvantage on certain other edges that need to be listened to staff wise, behavior contract wise at a group home situation, because they might be turning against a different view set or other concerns that might make me worried, where I do believe we should have an advocacy group on both sides of the table, like a nighttime recap for the public, or like a fireside chat idea in a way of those with disabilities talking to other ideas that I can provide. But I just want to make sure the county has a clear communications with the council and other programs that they too can be listened to too. And I have a follow-up after that, but Sasha, please go first on this advocacy topic in Clackamas County.
Great, thank you. I'm curious, John, if you know specific people who are asking for such a thing to happen, or who would be the people who would show up to that? And then my second question is, how is that different from this body here? And how could we encourage people to show up to this body, because we are a public body and we should be getting, whatever it is that people want to talk about in this space. I want to hear from them,
I absolutely love to hear on other edges too, but that's one thing I've noticed. This is the first time in history, as reported by some people, that advocates actually have a voice or have a possibility of a voice, even younger or older. And so really there's no space for this for the county program, most definitely understandable in some ways because they do group home and children's services. So this is a whole new environment where some people might not understand that angle. And even I too, Sasha, because I came in services at 28, started volunteering with Special Olympics and everything at 30 in ways that I've never seen this community also in many ways. But I also understand that the priorities are sometimes much different than there are even at the entity base, even even their own parents sometimes in ways that, at least for myself, I know I will get dinner if I disagree with my parents. But some people with disabilities get a behavior contract if they're downing the entities. I'm not saying I'm talking on behalf of the county, but I'm talking about other entities and where our professional contact is much with disabilities are much more supported when we have the right support. They're sometimes even more talented executive-wise. They get the right support than many brokerages executives and other atmospheres. So when I see those type of talents out there, that's where I would like to try to have a conversation with Clackamas County and the council where we can support these people and what they would like to do as a group member. And that's the best policy whatnot I can give personally as a advocate on this point. But I also know that history, there was never that type of voice. So how would we like to move forward in that type of conversation? Yeah.
Sorry. Two really quick things. One would be, to me, it seems like you would start with the self-advocates and ask them how best they could be supported and see if that's something that the county can do, you know. And then the second thing, in terms of inviting them to join this group or have their own group, I'd love to see a little bit of both, actually, because sometimes depending on what group you're in, you're going to feel more or less comfortable in sharing or asking for support or whatever. So anyway.
Okay. This sounds doable. I do have some concerns on sometimes it taking a lot of time to build these type of groups in ways that the county's overwhelmed. And that's something that I'm very concerned about because even working with bylaws on a group that I know of on a working draft, it took about 10 hours for us to really get through. And I'm not talking about people with disabilities, I'm talking about real context here. And so it took 10 hours just to get through bylaws. If it takes a council 9 months to 10 months for a mission statement and other aspects, I'm not downing us. I understand we have time commitments. I understand the culture. I understand some of that on the offside, but I don't know how we can move forward as the county and something for Brooke to consider, for later on when we make this topic a reality, hopefully. But that's stuff that is really real that can help. And then I do have, I mentioned two of them, but I do have another solution after Kim and Sarah.
Well, I just was going to go back to Shasta's question about here versus there also. Is this just thinking about the process to get on the council might be something, where it's an application, it goes to the Board of Commissioners and then an expectation of attendance and participation.
Can I just clarify, my comment was about people coming to this meeting, not necessarily
Gotcha.
joining the
Gotcha.
council, but just coming
Thank
to this
you.
meeting and saying, hey, I had an issue with XYZ, or I have an idea about ABC.
Thank you.
Whatever it is that is the problem that this would be a solution for. I think that this council could also be that solution.
Okay. I'm going to cut Sarah a little bit. I'm absolutely willing as chair to put 10 minutes or 5 minutes, just like how the Human Service Committee and Senate side puts 10 minutes of, those who may have not been at foster homes in situations. If you would like to make a motion of that, I'm willing to make a motion right now in ways that could invite those people, and we can put it on our public pages to invite that type of community and those who take services in ways. This for the notes now, unless Sasha and we have like a real vote and everything, please mention that or consider that as a council in ways that I'm absolutely willing for that to point that out. The difference to me, sorry, Sarah, but the difference to me is that non-voting member status helps people learn the system a little bit more. They just come in and out. They may not understand the full concept of the council's work over the last year or the last two. Of course, the concerns noted, public records, and public testimony, which I'm a little bit over my time right now. I might have to ask for 10 more minutes of our time. But I do think there is a difference of public discourse versus council discourse and county discourse. Hopefully I'm using the right words in ways of communication with advocates and those who want to have a voice be heard. Comfortability is first. Yes, they should be at a meeting like this, but someone with Brooke or others will be hand. And I'm going to go Sarah, and then I'm going to tell my other solution, like I said.
I'm sorry, I don't want to take up too much time either, but I just wanted to say that for things like the mission statement, things that are taking so long because we only have a certain amount of time in the meeting and then we move on to other business. And I am perfectly happy to conduct business over email as well. If we are able to do that, then that would be, certain things. I feel like we could just keep moving along a little bit faster on some things like that in particular.
Yeah. For me, email's a hard way of communicating. It takes hours sometimes to make an email for me. And I'm not saying no. I do think we should have discourse on that. Another thing is public record laws in ways of myself sometimes and protecting myself. It's very hard when there's political opposition or opposition for me to move out to the next city or to the next house, unlike a legislator or other public officials. So for that, it's very hard. I'm trying to get through this public in front of my county in ways, but that's something that's very much a concern when you use people's names in public ways and the protection later in life in ways that services are unable to accommodate that to protect them into moving to another county or other protection measures in ways of those with disabilities. That's one reason why I'm perfectly willing to go have coffee hour with you guys, in 2 dates, a month. I'm willing to make a room, in a conference room with the county for my communication with you guys. But for me, email is very difficult. And we will need to find a way for those with disabilities to learn how to communicate, even on a Zoom chat, without it being public all the way, but still communicating as a council. And I'm talking about all people with disabilities, not just myself.
Thank you, John. I totally respect that. Thank you.
Seems like some of this could be helped by some in-person meetings.
There we go. And that goes into my next one, or my, yes, it is. Way to go. Thank you, Sasha. That's why I did what I needed to try to do. So my question on the hybrid approach and everything, on the council meetings ongoing, is hybrid or virtual? What are you guys' thoughts on what you guys are thinking in ways of still doing virtual meetings or having in-person meetings? And I do have a follow-up on the advocacy side on that, but please put your opinions on that first.
Virtual is a lot easier for me, especially because the reason I'm on the council is my son. And for me to be able to be at a meeting and to be able to be home with him at the same time. So it's a lot easier for me.
Yeah. Does Clackamas County have a hybrid approach yet? That's workable, doable. I'm not going to point out any points because of other context, but I do know other environments that we've worked on that does have a decent hybrid approach to a point. So what I'm trying to point out is, does Clackamas County have that ability yet for hybrid approach?
I think if you're asking if we can accommodate that, yes, I believe we can.
Is it credible? Is it user friendly to a point of a push button rather than screaming loud into a mic that's 5 feet away?
Right, I was just gonna say that, and I was like, based on what I'm aware of, at least with our technology right at the moment, I would say, yes, it is an option, but no to your question about, is it like really great?
All right.
It's not. It is, the thing sits in the the mic sits in the middle of the table and you all sit in a room and we
Yep.
yell at one another.
Is there any way that we can communicate to Clackamas County a more susceptible system, like the meetings that you guys have attended in Microsoft Teams or Zoom, in ways of your professional contact that you maybe see that maybe Clackamas County can have a conversation with, if the council would like to go with a hybrid approach later on?
I mean, I'm sure we could pose the question to our technology services as to what other options we have.
All right. Any other thoughts to the council with the hand? Thank you, Sasha. Thank you. Any other thoughts on hybrid approach versus not, and how these meetings should be handled in a way that we may or may not need to have more meetings because of certain rules?
Yeah, I think that a hybrid approach is a good way to do it, because then we get the advantages of both worlds. I don't know what devices everybody is on, but mine is portable. So if the county had space, we could just all be in Zoom in a room together. I don't know.
I have no problem having people outside of a microphone, direct sound issue, people doing what they need to do as disability community or as, natural support in ways of respecting the meeting space. So I think that's great. Thank you, Sasha, for that opinion. Now, my question for you, for Clackamas County and for yourself was, how can we support you in ways that that the council was able to support those with disabilities while council members were on this council? For example, if I was an advocate on certain edges, being the chair of this, I would ask, is there people that were able to help and take care of council members' supports in ways to keep their minds at ease at a council meeting in person? While they're at home today, they at least may or may not have that person next to them, close to them. What were the accommodation factors of the past that were agreeable by those who were on the council?
Previously on the council, prior to COVID, all of our meetings were in person.
And how were those people that were members of the council, the people that they took care of, like parents, for example, how were they accommodated in ways that make them feel safe to be on a council meeting rather than just be too much worried of the situation and the situation of today's reality, where they're right next to them?
To be fair, we held evening meetings because that was what worked for people, but there was not like, when I think of accommodations and things like, I would think of like respite care or something to that effect. And that previously was not something that we offered.
I'm gonna change topics, come back to a topic right now, you guys. I would like to know, does anyone in the public that has any public comments they would make, and then I would like to go back to this conversation and then finish it up as soon as we can if there's no comment from the public. And yeah,
Are there
Sasha,
any public members on here?
I just need to make the opportunity known, so it's at least given, so at least it's been noted. So that's what the main thing. Ken, did you have any public comment you would like to make, or are you still just hanging as a guest?
Oh, I don't have any comments at the moment. I'm just soaking it all in. I appreciate it.
All right, that's fine. An air check would be just fine if you would like to give me one later. All right, let's get back on the meeting thing, because I do want to wrap that up in a sec. So hybrid and virtual, how would you guys like to handle it? Would you guys like to handle it virtual for now and have this conversation later? Or how would we like to approach that? Because personally, I have things to do in that part of town on Mondays. And I'm not saying that I'm for it, but what I'm trying to point out is we all have our things that we need to do. And with the location of an in-person meeting, Sasha pointed out that it would be fine with her. When should we have this conversation in a way that will give us a in-person approach or a hybrid approach?
Well, I would like to hear from staff if there's a place that we can go. I don't know what the room would look like or what that would be.
Right, depending on how many we wanted. We do have an auditorium room that, you know, if we knew in advance and it wasn't being used, we can request to book it in our development services building. And we do have some larger conference rooms that we can book here. We just would need to know in advance that that's what we were doing and book those and give the option to people.
And so the county staffers who are here, they're all in that building, or would they attend in person, or?
I think if we were gonna do hybrid, it would be, you know, a matter of, you know, if where they were at that particular day. I mean, they absolutely, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would make a motion for a hybrid meeting.
Anyone that want to second that? I will motion for a second. All right,
Thank you.
you had a
Vote.
discussion? Do anyone want to move for a vote? I will motion for a vote. I will need a second.
A second.
Unfortunately, we do not have yes or no buttons yet in the chat functions of the hybrid approach. And we can all do stand up, but it will look kind of weird on a Zoom platform. So I will say chair, thumbs up will be a yes for a motion for a hybrid approach. What should be a joy will be, open mouth will be a no, and a party sign will be abstain voting. Again, thumbs up is a yay, open mouth is a no, and ta-da is a abstain vote. For a hybrid approach, since we've had this conversation, the council, we need you all to vote in yes or no for a hybrid approach for next month or 2 months from now. Sasha, we're still in discussion phase, so.
I would do it next month, but I'm fine if
I would
people
second
need
that
a little
also.
longer.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
second that also. So, okay, so again, next month, do a hybrid approach. Please put your thumbs up. If you agree, put a mouth open. If you disagree as council members, or abstain vote for ta-da. All right. All right. All right, Colleen, that's just fine. I appreciate your vote. Sounds like we got a majority of yes for a hybrid approach for March meeting in a way of the policy meeting points. That's good. For me, let me go down my thing. We do have 10 more minutes. Hopefully I can get through the curriculum and all. But to me, chat function is not really accessible sometimes. And what I'm talking about is the extra accessibilities of yes, no, fast forward, coffee break, and other functions that you may have been in the meeting. I tried to communicate to Clackamas County, at least in the planning meeting, how important it was for this thing, but it looks like that we need council approval or other functions to be made in ways that I would like to get in your perspective outside of my own Discord, and what you think someone nonverbal might need in a function Zoom hybrid approach in a way of the chat function in particular, and other aspects of that type of conversation. Hopefully I'm hitting the right point, but at least count two points. The council members, a thumbs up is kind of a little weird to me, and I would like a yes, no on that. And then the second part is how can we help nonverbal and other people communicate in an online platform or in a live platform while we're in a meeting chat function, so their voices can be heard.
Don, I don't know if it's helpful to know this, but I did do some research on those functions that you mentioned, because I was like, how does he have those and we don't? It's actually specific to the type of Zoom that we use here at the county. So yes, those functions are available, as you know, but not through the type of Zoom account that we have. The Zoom account that we have is a HIPAA compliant version. So it protects privacy, things like that. But for whatever reason, some of those functions are not available in the HIPAA version that we use. So we are kind of looking into that.
I hope to hear more about that in ways that those with disabilities can be able to communicate with other reaction options than just putting a Christmas tree, hoping, that it would work also. So thank you for looking up in your update. Is there any other questions that you guys have on the chat function outside of it now being public record and other aspects as we do meetings continuing forward? Looks like that we're done with that. Is there a topic that I'm mentioning on those with disabilities and meeting critiques that we should consider as we move forward?
Notice that there isn't an option to turn on captions. Is that part of the HIPAA thing too, or?
Thank you.
Okay.
Brooke?
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That's actually something that we've been struggling with because we have the HIPAA compliant Zoom for other reasons, because our service coordinators meet with people and it needs to be HIPAA compliant. We don't have the ability to have the closed captions automatically written in. So we're not sure really what we can do about that. That's the package that our technology services program bought. And we've been told that we're not to use other things like Teams when we have to use the HIPAA compliant thing. The other thing I wanted to say, it's just something for us to think about, I guess, and this came up a couple times, at least in my head as we were talking, and that is, I did invite Amanda to join us and just kind of see what she thought of the council, and she did leave because it was a kind of an overwhelming discussion, and there were a lot of topics being discussed and a lot of things that she wasn't familiar with. And I think that when we talk about having involvement from other people who may not be as familiar with all the things we talk about and all the acronyms we use and all the legislation we talk about, I don't think we're necessarily going to get lots of people participating or interested or understanding. And so I don't know how the council might want to think about that in the longer term. But for me, what comes up is that is why it might be good for a different forum for people to be able to talk about things that impact their lives and including their services, and then maybe a liaison or an opportunity to all meet together, once every 6 months or something, and talk about things that that's accessible to everyone who's in the meeting.
I want to first thank Sasha for mentioning closed caption. When I see a different thing from other councils, I may follow up with questions in ways of their ability on formats. But I want to point out to Brooke, I forgot to mention my outreach director idea. I know you are an outreach person, Brooke, or equity something. So I respect your position and who you are as a person in Clackamas County. But there has been another outreach director that contacted me from Monoma County in a way that would help consolidate those voices and be heard as a council voice. So something like that in a team, either you or someone else in the outreach side that can hit all sides of conversation might be valuable for the council to consider in ways that can put those voices in and also bring in the individual voices that may be able to participate and should participate. I apologize on behalf of Amanda who came in, but I hope to also I understand that we can do the two subject per meeting kind of thing, but sometimes we need to go to more topic points to hit. And I hope that we can hit those environments that those with disabilities can grow upon. They can't, it's not that they can't do it, just grow upon it. So I know I'm going fast and I apologize, but I have a lot, I have 4 hours of content sometimes, and I too need to also grow. So I appreciate that comment.
I will just say also that I'm working on my own ability to help give people enough information to be able to jump into something that they're not familiar with, and that's my own, growth right there. So I'm learning.
I think on the meeting side, the numbers of meetings per year conversation needs to happen. I will please ask for a motion to extend this meeting by 5 to 10 minutes if possible. Can I do that?
Yeah, I'll second. I also wanted to circle back on the mission statement idea before we close.
All right. Please remind me of that, Sasha. I respect what needs to be said. As much as I was excited to have a 5th meeting and a way of, putting legislative ideas in for March's meeting, which is part D, I guess there's something that was explained to me about the number of meetings per year. Would the county like to explain that in ways that I may or may not still be confused, or was I misinterpreting that and made that a topic point that I was thinking?
I think we were meeting 4 times a year, I think is what we said.
Yeah.
But the bylaws
Yeah,
say that we actually meet.
5 times a year.
8.
So I think we were going to talk about potentially meeting more often.
Okay. So basically, the bylaws say we need to meet 8. As much as I was excited for 5, it looks like we need to meet for 8. Do we need to approve that, or how, or do we just get the meetings, and how would you guys like to be communicated with these meetings? And how can my co-chair and I, try to communicate this if we need to have 8 meetings per year?
I would love to see a schedule written.
Okay.
I think it would be great if staff could help you with that if email is difficult.
Yeah. A schedule on the public page, Sasha, or a schedule on the email to communications with council members?
Well, I think first we would need to decide as a council, what works, and then we would publish it once we vote on the schedule.
Okay. Because I know that we have to have, if we do 8, that means we have to do it more than just once every 3 months. Right? Okay. And I know that there'll be more pressure on the co-chair in a way of time of pre-planning meetings. And I'm concerned that there may or may not be that time. I want to know, Lisa, is it good enough for you to have pre-planning meetings 8 times, 3 times extra during the year in a way that we can plan the agenda?
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I fixed it. I've been sitting here messing around with it the whole time, and I was afraid it wasn't going to work. Yes, I can commit to that. I just found the planning meeting emails after talking with Amy in my spam. So I apologize.
No problem. I understand the situations, and I understand there was also a very, very important issue that needed to be discussed that next week. So I understood this last run, but I just want to make sure that if we do it 8 times a week. Another question that I had for Amy and Kim on the time thing, I will get to you, Sash, on your last one. I'm trying to wrap it up. Is do we need a total of 8 hours on the bylaws, or do we only need 6 meetings in a way of 8 hours for an hour and a half each?
It's not hours. It's not time. It's the number of times.
All right.
Yeah.
And
so-
so we will talk more much on that meeting and how frequently to do it. Do we need meetings to catch up on the meetings that we lost?
Well, I think it's only February. So, we'd move forward from here. We have one in February and I think we're doing one in March.
Okay.
What I've been planning to type in the thing and just put out there is it might be easier just to determine which 4 months we aren't meeting. And then plan around that, to say, are we like, which
All right.
particular months are the ones that seem like they're most challenging for folks. And sometimes I think it's probably that like July, November, December kind of holiday months and schools out months and things like that. But anyway,
I think I'm gonna scratch out guest speakers, updates, ideas for now because of time.
yeah.
Concerns, recruitment of the council, March 2023. And then I would like to ask the council to consider some stuff for either next meeting or after the March meeting. So what about March 31st meeting? The main thing are the recruitment until March whatnot. So we're looking for recruitment. What are you guys looking for? As I think most know, but I would like us to follow up that, and then Sasha had a concern after that. Yeah. Not concern, but point, sorry. So we have till March, Amy,
Yeah,
to
so
recruit people.
The recruitment's open through March 31st. At this time, we only have recruitment open for individuals in service or families of individuals in service.
Okay.
So at this time, providers, so residential providers or any type of other behavior, attendant care providers, those people can come to the meeting for sure. It's a public meeting. Anybody can come.
Yeah.
But they can't vote. They can't apply to be a member. So
Uh-huh.
that's the only thing there. And then we do have we are not taking advocates at this time. So it has to be an individual or a family of an individual
Okay.
who identifies as ID or DD.
Okay.
And
And
so March 31st, tell your people. I sent I sent the flyer out to you guys with the
Oh,
meeting
sorry.
minutes.
Sorry.
And I can resend that again. And it kind of talks about how to apply in there and what the website
That
is.
would be helpful if you could send that again. Thank you.
Okay.
And how a council member is going to be informed when there are applicants and ways that interview process have been already talked about with Stacy and other issues. How will they be communicated, council members, for those interview process, so we can do a thorough job on that for applicants? Will they be considered to be even in those meetings basis of the applicant's interview?
Yeah, so I think we would talk to the executive committee, so you and Lisa.
Okay, that's good enough for me, for as long as people know.
And then I think people would vote after that, after we brought the applicants to you guys, and then people can vote after we do an interview.
Lisa and I can discuss on other topic points of what I was concerning about recruitment, but I see on other pages of the public forums, there's like a video function, join our group function. There's budget reports, bylaws, and other agendas versus packets to event pages and other things so what I'm asking the council here is you guys can think of ways to make that page more consistent in ways that how you guys would like it to be represented to new recruits. I would really appreciate that input for the county and you as council members in ways that would help us gain more information as council members, but also help the public know who we are rather than just, sporadic agendas or other things. So please look at Clackamas County's county councils and other pages around it and see what functions you may would like to have on our pages in ways that would help. One thing that I really enjoyed that I could not get the source on again was they put a guest list, they put on working projects, and they put on things that have been worked on to, other ideas. And that was a spreadsheet that I really enjoyed watching in ways that could help us drive us as an executive committee, but then also the public knowing who we've had and who what we're driving towards as a council. It was something that was important to me, that I could not get the resources. I have other behaviors and functions on my list, but something to consider. Sasha, I'm sorry to have overtaken your time. Yes, we talked about recruitment, and now it's your turn.
Thanks. Sorry, my cat wants to be part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
So I have a Google Doc that I put together, because this is how my brain works, to do the mission statement thing. So I can email this or whatever, but everybody should be able to see it. And I can also put this is my draft. So if we want to, go from here, and however people want to continue to collaborate in between meetings or before the March meeting would be great.
Okay. I'm sorry. Is it Mimi? I don't know. Give me your name, please, again.
Yeah, Mimi, you can call me Mimi. That's
Right.
yeah. Regarding the recruitment, I wanted to ask, what is the qualification for recruitment, and who can apply, and where can people find this job openings?
Just want to make sure I'm understanding the question about recruitment. So the recruitment for the council is what we were talking about. And that is on our website. And they can reach out to, and Amy, I don't know if you want to speak to the website, but it is on our Clackamas County council website.
Okay, thank you.
And I had a follow-up question. For those who are on the, I understand there's no advocates right now, but I am worried about myself a little bit in ways of consideration. If I'm at level 1 and they decide to cut services in ways of budgetary concerns by other factions or fractions of the community, and I become ineligible for services, how can we as the council decide for those members who are on the higher end of disabilities, including maybe not myself, in ways that when those that money is being taken by other fractions, still be able to contribute to a council like this in ways that may or may not be available if services are cut in certain angles to save on budget for other ends. I'm asking all my groups this question in a way that I either need to, be done and know to be done with this type of council because the budgetary cuts, and if my services are cut, or those with disabilities who are higher up in the system, in a way of level 1 that might be cut in advocacy work, and how to contribute to the county if they are cut in ways that fair boards have mentioned, certain cuts if certain other budgets are taken away. So I guess what I'm asking is, if I was a higher level person, which I don't know if I am, would I still be able to contribute to the council in my 2-year term if services were cut?
So I'm gonna speak and say, I'm saying this as of today, and what I know right now is your eligibility for developmental disability services should not be in question. So you would still qualify if they're talking about changing services and funding for services. It wouldn't necessarily be case management. And so you could still be eligible for case management services. And as far as I know, there's no plan to change the eligibility requirements. Actually, they're even broadening them a bit. So there's no plan to change eligibility requirements for developmental disability services. As far as the criteria, so you've been made eligible and you're eligible as an adult. So for in that particular situation, that it would be if service levels are impacted or reduced, which is also, I don't believe, on the table, but I don't know. I'm not seeing too much in that right at the moment. is that you would still be eligible for receiving case management. So wherever you receive your case management from, that shouldn't change.
All right, I just want to make sure I understand what Phil Boyce was talking about, this net zero too, but knowing that there's other places that need money in a way of, certain aspects, I know that services may be cut and have to ask on behalf of those like myself who may be on the border of services or not because of those budgetary issues and ways of serving this type of community. I'm going to let everyone go. I motion to probably leave because we do need a motion, but if anyone else has any concerns, please comment or have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn. And so do folks want me to email this out? Is that the best way to continue?
Yeah, if you want to also send it to Amy, she can add it to the minutes and put it in. So, and she's agreed to prioritize getting minutes out pretty quickly. But otherwise, if you have all of our email addresses, that's great. Otherwise, Amy does. So you can send it to Amy and she can make sure we all get it. I see it in
Okay,
the
great.
chat, but the chat will go away from us
Yes.
as soon as we close it.
Okay, sounds good. I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time and efforts, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank
Okay.
you, John.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Tell me when the
Take care,
next
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Brooke, before you go off, please help me if you can take it off record, please.